everyone, welcome to Natural Wonders. Today I'm going to be showing you what you're going to need to paint along with me with watercolors. So where we're going to start? Right, start with pencils. So many different kinds of pencils that you can use. These are like 6 artist graded pencils. They're graded from, I think it's, I'll just have a look, I think it's B to 6B. I'm going to scale this. Let's have a look. So here we go. We've got, I think we've got from B all the way up to 5B. So we've got 1B, 2B, 3B, 4B and 5B there. B being the harder one and the 4B being the softest. Obviously the hardest style generally are your HBs, HB pencils, which are quite a hard pencil. For shading though, you want to be using the soft ones like the 2B, 3B, 4B. Also we have very dark pencils here, which are extremely dark. There's double E, 6B, so an 8B there. Double E is the softest that you can get, I think, out of all the pencils. They're more for shading than anything, but they're good for your watercolors. You don't need all them, you can do it with just one pencil. That's all that you need. But I also sometimes use pens. These are like a fine liner type pen. You get some lovely effects with that along with watercolors. They really are good, and I'll be showing you how to use all these materials together in mixed media, also with acrylics, using watercolors and acrylics together. Also the good old ballpoint pens, they always come in handy for watercolors. It's surprising how you can use them. And then obviously that's it for the pens and pencils. Let's go on to the paints. This is just a little palette that I've got, a mixture of different coloured paints. They're not expensive, they're quite cheap, but they're quality. And what I tend to do is I will mix the tubes, put the paints actually onto the colours, same colours, and then I mix them with the actual harder paints there. I tend to do that a lot. It really helps because you can actually mix on this side as well. You see, this is your palette. Use this as a palette for big washes if you like. And then get the palettes in the tubes like I'm showing you. Different colours. There's all sorts. I mean, I've got a really nice little case here that I will eventually show you. I've got a few different palettes. There's this palette here, and then there's this kind of palette here. There are a couple of different kinds of palettes that you can use for watercolours. Right, let's move on to erasers. Now you can just have your normal erasers like this one, which are good for just if you're doing something light and you need to rub it out. That's an ideal rubber to use. But if you're wanting to put darks in and then draw with your rubber by taking the pencil out, putty rubbers are what you need. Now a putty rubber is really good because you can actually pull it off, get it to a sharp point, you can mould it to whatever shapes you want, and you can actually draw with the rubber. Instead of actually drawing with the pencil, you can draw with the rubber itself. It'll take out the lead and just leave the white of the paper there. There's a couple of different kinds. You can get them in grey, but I prefer the white ones because obviously it stands out then where your lead is. And when you have areas where there's too much lead, you can just pull it off, put it in the bin, discard it, and then remould it again how you want it to be. You can make a knife edge with that. You can make a pointed edge. You can literally draw with it. Right? Obviously you're going to need a ruler, a decent ruler, but it's very rare to use rulers. only if I'm doing like a horizon or say something of that nature. But even then, when I do the straight line, I will generally go back over and make it look a bit rough, so it's not just perfect. You don't want it to be perfect, just don't look natural. Right, now other things that you need medium wise, you don't need them, but it actually helps, is masking fluid. Now I'll be showing you a lot about how to use masking fluid in the previous in future demonstrations that I do. Now masking fluid is there to cover up certain areas of the paper that you want to keep white. So say you want to do a building and it's very dark around it with trees, you can put the masking fluid on the building, paint the trees behind it, and none of the watercolours will get onto the masking fluid, and therefore the building will stay light, and you can put your details in afterwards then. But it's best off that I just show you with that. And then you need a mister, a spray mister, just water used in that, just for when you're doing your watercolours. You don't always need to do it, just now and again. And finally, it's handy to have a good old hairdryer at hand for watercolours, because obviously in between the layers you want it to dry quick so you don't get drying lines, and it also helps to speed up the process of your painting as well. So I won't be using them, I will be using them, but I won't be doing it on camera, too noisy. So there you go, that's what we're going to need to paint along with me with watercolours. Obviously you're going to need a jar for water and stuff as well. But this is a picture that I've started. I went over to Wales for a little bit of a retreat, a little bit of a break, and this is just a little sketch that I did while I was there. Sketch of a little outhouse where he parked his car. I just thought it looked nice with the trees and these bushes and trees behind it. I'm just going to paint that in for you all in watercolours, just give you a little bit of a taste of how to use them and the ways that you can use the pen and stuff with the actual drawing. So yeah, that's going to be the next one that I'm going to do for you. So take care everyone, and I'll see you again very soon. Hi everybody, welcome to Natural Wonders. I'm going to do this watercolour for you now. This sketch set out here, and what I've got on my palette is very watery mixtures of different paints, different colours of watercolour. I've got a purple, I've got a ultramarine blue, that's try to think now what that colour is. I think it's a cerulean blue. And then I've mixed up a type of brown with yellow ochre and burnt sienna. The yellow ochre is a light green that I've mixed, and that's it. So let's get started with this. So first things first, I'm going to get a little bit of cerulean on the brush. With that I'm just going to come up into this area, this part of the sky, and put some of that in there. Nice sunny colour is cerulean. I'm just going to allow it to come down into them trees a bit, and don't worry if you get any marks or anything like that. Just allow it to gently blend its way down. I'm using normal paper here, it's not watercolour paper. I'd always normally use watercolour paper, but many times I like to do this and just have sketches like a watercolour sketch. So I'm just going to put a bit of that blue, like I say, down in the sky there, a bit of that cerulean. Start at the top, a fresh bit of paint, start at the top, and don't mess with it too much, just allow it to melt into it like that. Happy with that. Slightly lighten on the horizon. To do that you can take out the pigment and the brush, and it'll actually suck up the paint then. You can even put clouds in that way, but that's for another demonstration. Right, so we've got the blue on there for that. Now just down here we've got the grass. So I mixed up a light green, and what we're doing is called a graded wash right at this moment. So where the grassy area is, I'm going to put some of that green down in there, maybe a bit more yellow to it here and there, so it looks a bit more sunlit. There, that's better. Because there's areas that are sunlit and there's areas which aren't. So I want to get the shadowed grass in. You can see where I've done it darker for the shadows, and then get some of this light green in there too. There. Also a bit brighter in there. That green just showing, standing out in that area too. What this is, it's an old piece of metal, like a metal tyre or something from a tractor, I'm not so sure. So we're painting back over that anyway, so it doesn't matter if a bit of that green gets on there. You'll notice it pulls a bit, just the watercolours just at the bottom here. So just take that out so it's not quite as wet. Yeah, that's fine for that stage. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go down into here with this dark, well, it's like a browny tone. I'm just going to try a bit of that here and there, just now and again, not on them all, just on a few here and there, so just allowing a bit of that colour just in there and leaving some of the lights still, the lighter stones on the building. And I'm going to change, there's going to be sort of like a lavender hue to some of these, the blue with lavender hue. Just get some really lovely colours in this stone up in Wales. We had a cracking holiday, cracking time. Don't do much walking like, but definitely managed to see some beautiful places. Just put a few little bits of that darker tone in. Just a little wash basically, a really little wash. Behind some bushes here, but don't worry about them. I'm going to show you a bit of how you can use mixed media with watercolours for them bushes, how to make them stand out and stuff. But you don't want to overdo what I'm doing now, just enough. It's all you need, just enough. Right, now I'm just going to get a bit more burnt sienna with that same colour for the door, but it's a bit more burnt sienna in with it. So just here where the door is, I'm just going to come down like so. You can even come up. I don't want it to touch this area, or the water will actually leak into where the grassy area is. So I'm being careful of that, and I'm leaving a couple of lighter areas in. So that's just the first wash. Right, so the whole painting is dried now completely, and what I want to do, I'm just going to mix up this dark brown colour for the building a little bit stronger. No, for the door a little bit stronger. I'm just going to use a little bit of raw on, but this is the second wash, so it'll automatically get darker anyway. Tried it to have a bit more of the burnt sienna in there. So again, I'll just start in that corner and I'll just pull down like so to the bottom. I'll leave a bit of a gap and I'll let some of the light zing off that too. If you come down a bit too far like I did there, don't worry, you can just mop it up. There. Right. That's for the door. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use more of the cadmium yellow in with that green that I had made originally. And with that, I'm just going to put some of them yellows and stuff just in here. A couple of nice little light green trees just up in there. Now we're actually in autumn when I were up there, so there's going to be a lot of autumn colours. That's why there's this very bright yellow that I'm using up in here, and then I'll allow some darks to bleed into it. Maybe a bit of that over in there too. Put some over in there. And we'll vary it up. It's going to be quite dark in this region anyway. Just wanted a bit of them greens in there. Just up in here I'm just going to put some little highlights on these trees that I did before. This one's again another little green one. So while we've got the green on the brush, we'll try and fill all the ones in that are green first. Oh, it's just a light yellow, not all green. In fact, very few of them will be green. I'm just blocking it all in. I'm leaving some little areas for the sky to show through here and there. Right. While that colour's still wet, I'm going to go into some dark blue and just touch it. See that? Just touch it in there. What it'll do is it'll just bleed into that colour and give you some little shadows and stuff. Some darks alongside the lights. I'll get a bit of dark up in there too, but I'm not going over the tree. I hope you notice that I'm staying away from this tree because I want it to be lighter than what's behind it. You see the tree? I'm being very careful not to kill that. And I can drag some of that dark in there. Like touch into that what I put in before. A few darker leaves you'll always get up here, maybe a few dark green leaves on this tree, just in there. And then with that I might even stick some. I'm just going to go crazy with this. Stick a bit of bright red into it. Some sort of copper birch or something. Copper beech, sorry. While it's still wet. You've got to do this while it's still wet. It's nice. I want to bring some of that colour right down into there as though that tree's all the way through. And remember though that there's still going to be darks. Oh, I'm going to be low on that part. Still a lot of darks I've got to put in with this. So I'll go back again to the bit of the blue. And I'll mix with the red. And then here and there, I can come back in, put some darker tones in there, in with the lighter ones. That's it. That's a really nice colour, is that? I'm liking that. I'm just going to mop it up slightly underneath and get it going across the top of the roof. And let that come in front of that tree there. And I'm going to use some of these colours up in here. Some of these purple, it's turning a bit of a purple hue now, is that, which is lovely. I like that. And I just want some different shades of all these lovely colours going on through in here. There's a bit more blue in that, which is great again. Variation and variety. Very dark down in here, so it's nice to get some dark colours that are nice into that. Bit of the yellow, just bleed them together. When you put these wet paints together like this, they will bleed together, literally. One colour will bleed into the other, so you don't get separation. And come a bit low there. Try and wipe it out with your fingers if you ever do that, but it doesn't matter. You can always go over again with a bit of Chinese white if you need to. See how all the colours are bleeding together now? In there. A few darker blues and stuff in this area here too, where I want it dark. I'll use that as a separator for this wall. It's all higgledy-piggledy, it's not perfect. That is all shadow behind there. I love it. That's good. And now this colour, more or less like a Payne's grey or something. So that's some of them other greens still remain in there a little bit. I do want it dark. Get a few greens. I'll get a bit of red. Just to match the colours we've got in there. Use a tiny bit more red. Yeah, that's better. Just let that sit in there and bleed together with all them colours as well. Really enjoy painting like this because you can be quite loose with watercolours. Happy. Don't want to come down too low because this is a bit of grass that I can remember seeing just there. Some of that red get in there. Maybe a bit more ultramarine, darker. See that? And see this puddling that's happening at the bottom? I just need to try and prevent that, so what I'll do, I don't want it to go crazy, you see. I'll bleed some of these more other darks in first. And then squeeze out the brush, and you can actually pick up that polar paint with the brush just in there, so it's not as it comes back in there easily to darken it, because I want it to be quite dark in there. That's good. Right, so we're getting some colours going on at least. And now I'm just going to come in here and go around with some of this yellow ochre. Now the light's coming from left to right. So they're coming from left to right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave these quite bright and vibrant, these ones. Even leave a bit of white coming through from the paper. And then when I go around the edge of the building, which is just there, I will add the shadowed colour to that to darken it so that the building stands out then. Just a couple of shadows in there. happy. Some nice variation of tones, darks against lights. Happy with how that's going. So what I'll do is I'll just let that dry, and then we can come back in again. Right, so what I want to do, I've just got some Chinese white in here. I'm just going to touch it with the pencil, touch into it and get a bit of white on the end of the pencil. So you can just see that there. And then where I've put the leaves over here, I'll just show you. I'll just be putting bits of white in, just like so. And then once that's dried, you can go over it with yellows and it'll give you a nice leaf effect. This is one way that you can do it. So just over here I've got one, so I'm just going to touch a few little leaves into that as well that are highlighted and bright. And it'll just look white at first, obviously. And then what you do, you go back into it with the green, and it stands out then over the top, because with watercolour being transparent, you would have had to have done this with masking fluid first. It'd have left the white of the paper showing, and then what you would have done is just painted your green into that then. I'll show you. I'll be doing a lot of watercolors, so I'll be able to show you these different techniques and different ways of getting leaves when they're in a dark area like this. So I'm just putting a few in there, don't want too many. And then what you do is you just let it dry, basically completely dry. This is dry now, so I'll be able to paint that green. But just, you can do this with a brush if you want. You can just paint them in, but I just prefer to do it with a pencil. I think it's a bit more random then. When you do it with a brush, it can sometimes tend to be a bit too much. I'm just going to put a little bit on there. See that? Where the door is, as though there's some leaves coming right over that. There we go. Just some little bright leaves just coming into that area where the door is. That's it. I'm using the sides of the pencil and everything because it's just that white paint that's on there. That's enough for that brush. I don't want too much, so I'll just wipe that off. And then that pencil's good to use again. So what I need to do, just get a nice liner brush for this. Right, so I'm just going to use a liner brush, and with that, always have a jar with water. And then I'm just going to mix up a nice green colour. So I'll use a bit of sap green and some lemon yellow. I'm just going to put them in here for a minute. Just like this. Sap green and some lemon yellow. But it's going to be much more lemon yellow than the green. Now I want it to be quite watery. I want it to be quite thin. So I'm going to mix quite a bit of water just get some water, 1, maybe 4 drops, just about there. Mix a bit of the yellow with it, and a bit of that green too. There. Something like that. I'm just going to come in and just try a bit of that colour. Oops, it is. And now it stands out, you see. We can put some darks in there too, like leaves that are in shadow, but these will stand out as though they're nice and sparkly. Each individual one. Stick a bit of green on it. It doesn't take too long to do. And the Chinese white takes the watercolour paint really well. Some of them can be just left slightly white as well, as though the sun's, you know, gleaming off of them. There. Little fiddly work to do this, but I enjoy it. It's worth it. It's worth the effort, the effect. If I'd have done this with masking fluid, I'd have been doing just the same thing, only it'd be the white of the paper that'd be showing. Yeah, all the individual leaves that I did, I'm just going to go over them and drop a tiny bit of colour on there, and it'll stand out lovely. And then there's going to be once it's dried, I'm going to go back in and put some branches and stuff for it, and a little trunk. Got something about like that for now. Be happy with that. There's a couple more, there's one there. Right, now what I want to do, because we're nearly close to finishing this now, I just want to use, I'm going to show you at the end the different brushes that I use for watercolours, because as you can see I've done most of this with just the one brush, but this is a nice little brush to use for what I'm going to do now, which is get some burnt sienna, and some Van Dyke brown. Already got some Van Dyke brown from yesterday, so I'll go into some of that. Van Dyke brown, no, it's yellow ochre, sorry. A bit of Van Dyke brown and yellow ochre mixed together. Maybe a little bit of black as well, just a tiny bit. Let's have a look at that for darkness. A bit more. There, let's try that. So just up in here, I'm going to start up in there. It's going to be hard to show you this, so I'm going to have to just do it and be able to see then. Just going down one side, see that? One edge, like that. And then I'm breaking that edge slightly. There. And then I clean the brush with water, and I can actually just blend that then, just allow the two to blend together. See that? There. So that's just that little bit of the trunk in there, and then we've got the same up in here, a stick coming off it there, go down the right hand side of the trunk with the brown, and then the same thing all the way down. This is the shadowed side of the trunk. See what we're doing? So don't worry yet. No need to worry about anything, because we can just clean that brush off now as quick as possible, and then you go back into that colour and just, it'll still dissolve, it won't stay as a line. If you're quick enough, it'll dissolve perfect, and then you just blend that back into there, leaving a nice highlight still on the left hand side. There. So just basically darkening it off slightly. But not killing all that highlight that we put on there originally. There. See that now? And then we can use the pen and stuff as well to make some really nice details for that. Just come up in a way and do a couple of these little thinner branches that we've got up there. Right, now I'll do more or less the same as I've just done, but I'll do it on the big tree, so I'm going to need more colour, quite a bit more colour for this. I'm going to put a bit of burnt sienna in with that, I think. Van Dyke brown, burnt sienna, and a small amount of black. There. And then with that, I'm just going to put some little branches coming in from there. Again, I'm just going to paint down that right hand side where it's dark on the shadowed side. See it? Press that edge up slightly when you do that. If you can get it in one go, do it, but chances are you'll run out of paint. Right down that dark side. Let that root come out, and then I'll just gently go behind that. Now. So that's your shadowed side in there. Paint up to that, and then use a bit of water, and then that colour can be blended back nicely. Just in there. That's lovely. It's worked. It's worked really well. Put a few little bits of something going on inside it, and that contrast between the dark and these lights will work really well now. See that? That tree looks much better in my eyes just from doing that little thing there. So I'm just going to come up and do the same on this side. This. See that? Break it off into a bit of water and allow it to blend back. There's some little ripples in the bark and stuff as well. Right. Same. Should really let that dry before I do that side, but I'll try and get it done for you. We're nearly coming to this painting being finished now. So these are just little details. I'm not going to bother putting any leaves on these, all the leaves have dropped off. It is autumn. And then with that colour, you see me just put it down on the tops. I'll just bring it right down and through there, right through. See that? And then again, straight to my water. go to the side of it and I'll let it dissolve its way right back out again. And you can just rub it. You just don't want a line, a dead line there. It's supposed to grade from there so that you still see that bit of light. You still want to see some of that light on there. Don't kill it all. Right, I'm happy with that. Right, last couple of touches now. Some more green on there. Put some on this as well. It's still slightly wet, but doesn't matter. There. Nice. Now, another brush that I like to use, just for stippling, is this brush. It's probably too big for what I'm after. I think it's going to be too big for what I'm after. So what I'll do is I'll just use what I call a flailing brush. See how it's all flailed on ends? They can be quite good for what I'm wanting to do. So I'm going to get some dark green into that yellow. See that? Just in there. Tap that into there. Just tap here and there. Have to might get a bit of dark into that too. Just a dark green, and then just very gently I'm going to just allow it to touch into that, so you've got some darks against the lights. It'll stand out much better then. See that? Just by touching with this brush, allow me to put some little dark leaves over the top there. The darker where it's dense in the middle, towards the edges. A little bit on there too. Nice. Right. What I'm going to do, a nice thing to do is to get a sharp pencil, say a 2B or something, sharpen it up, and just on this left hand side where it's not darker, where it's not on the shadowed side, you can just go over with quite a bit of pressure that side of the trunk, and it'll enhance it and make it stand out a bit more. You can do it with pen as well if you like, but I'm going to use the pen, just a ballpoint pen. And I'm just going to use that just in here to indicate the door boards, the boards for the door, just in there. Sometimes if it don't want to work for you at first, just get a piece of paper or something. I'll just use that side, get it going. And once it's going, it's okay, but you don't want to be too heavy with this. Very gentle and quite sketchy when you're doing it. I don't want one solid line, I just want it to indicate the planks. See that? That's all it takes. Now hold on, I'm just going to indicate the door handle, which is just in there, like that. Just one solid line, and they're not too distinct, they just about stand out. I enjoyed doing this. A bit of a change doing watercolours. I did some watercolours when I went to Wales, that were fun. Right through the shadows that you've put in there on the door, the tree shadows, and it really will give a nice effect. Yeah. Something like that. Now you see that stands out. Also just work on these edges of the door sometimes. The different pens that you can use, you know, you don't have to use this ballpoint. You can use the real graphic design pens like what I've got here. They're pretty good. Right. You can also, because I've done it in pencil, you don't really need to bother, but you can go back and you can just like indicate some darker shadows just here and there on the stonework. But like I say, I believe that I've done it hard enough with a pencil not to need to do that, but now and again it's nice to just do that, give a bit of detail around the odd stone here and there. But don't overkill that, don't overdo. There. Just little parts there and there, that's all you need. Right, well I hope you've enjoyed this particular painting. I've really enjoyed doing it for you all. So all that leaves me to do now is to talk about brushes. Right, so this brush is a Terry Harrison. I use it for acrylics, but it's really good for doing trees and stuff when you're doing them bigger. This is quite a bit smaller, and I've been rushing there and I've just forgotten something, the last thing that I need to do, so I might as well get that sorted and get it done before I'm finished. I'm always forgetting things, I'm rushing. Right, just up in here I'm going to paint a little trunking for this bush and some sticks and twigs that are just coming out of it there. Just dark, just in the dark Van Dyke brown colour, because they're underneath the bush in the shadowed area. There, see that? And that just finishes that off. Same over in here. Put a couple just coming into it like that. Nice, I'm happy. Right, now we can start to talk about different brushes. Right, so I always like to have a nice liner brush. You can get the liner brushes which are longer, which hold more water, and then you get the really fine liner brushes which are just for details. Just for details of them ones. I hope they're standing out to you. I've got these blue ones in all different sizes, up to that sort of size. And then I've got a couple of bigger ones the same as them, which are good for washes, which is that. But you get a lot of different kinds of watercolour brushes. I like to use this one for doing a graded wash, which is a really nice one. So, a Ron Ronson brush, and that's very nice for doing washes. It's so soft, it works a treat. But I do use fan brushes and everything when it comes down to it. I'll just use anything, but I do particularly use them because watercolours want these really soft bristle brushes. You don't want to be using a 2-inch brush with a watercolour or a 1-inch brush, no chance. But there you go. I hope you've enjoyed this demo. There's a little bit about brushes and the materials and everything, and I'll show you this picture to the best of my ability. There we go. So there's the finished product. Give you a close up so you can see the door without it blurring, and the bushes and stuff. the shadows have worked really well on the grass, and the autumn colours in the trees, I'm happy with that too. So there you go. Take care everyone.